Hey gorgeous soul, welcome to this live training, and I'm talking all about soul resetting, how to get back on track with your alcohol or your sugar freedom goals. Perhaps like me, you are, maybe currently on your sobriety journey and now you're working on sugar. Really, wherever you are, this is for you, because we are all in a different place with this. And my view is, my way of doing things is, there are no rules. This is your place to experiment with what works for you. We're all different, and rigid rules didn't work for me. And I had to go on this journey to really find out for myself. And this is so true for my clients as well. Really, with curious eyes, finding out what works for you, just giving ourselves full permission to experiment, to get feedback, to see what works and what doesn't. So welcome. I can see a few of you joining. If you're catching up on the replay, it's #replay. I can't necessarily always see comments on here, so any comments, pop them below, or please feel free to send me a private message. And I am going to share a bit of my story briefly. I'm going to talk about what grey area drinking is, and also what alcohol and sugar freedom actually means. We're going to talk about the two identities and the gap, how to navigate that gap, and I'm going to give you a couple of ways that's going to help you to get back on track. And I'm aligning this with nature cycles, how currently we are in autumn, and we are in the UK anyway, and the leaves, I've just been really watching the leaves falling from the trees, and just a reminder for us to just let go. And today is very, very still here, and I am feeling the energy of us, all of us as a group, just taking a giant pause and just slowing down, just giving ourselves full permission to turn noisy brain off, to turn all the shoulding, all the busy bee brains, and just really grab our journals and just create some space so we can just breathe. So, a little about me. If this is the first time you're new to my world, you don't know who I am, what I do, and how I can help, I'm Kath Nolden. I am founder of The Wellness Tree, and I have been on a real journey for the last 8 years. So 8 years ago, I made a decision to go on an alcohol freedom journey. Now, this wasn't a decision that I suddenly made. I've been trying to make this decision before, and even then I was, I don't know if I am all in or if I'm not all in. I had a lot of resistance. I had a lot of feelings that I was going to be missing out, and I really didn't want to stop drinking wine. And really, from the 8 years of being on that journey, which has been pretty imperfect, I've had a few drinking experiments in that time, and I talk about these often, and I'm actually grateful to those, even though at the time I was like, why did I do that? But it gave me feedback, it gave me real insights into what was working and what didn't. And I then started my sugar freedom journey, and I'll talk a little about that as well. So rewinding all the way back actually to childhood, I had a real sugar thing going on, which started when I was about 5 years old. I was eating junk. I would actually go into the kitchen and steal food, biscuits from the cupboard and things, to self-soothe, to comfort, and to really try and settle myself. And then growing up, having a very difficult childhood, things going on at home that really weren't good. I couldn't sort of tell anyone what was happening, being bullied, and also at school as well. So nowhere felt safe at all, and I was using food to really try and settle me down. And I just felt like I was constantly looking over my shoulder, scanning the horizon for danger. And maybe you have been through something similar and you understand what that's like. Now, to cut a lot of that story out, you know, it's really been my whole life. So I'm 49 now, and as I get to this place in my life, just really finally really letting go of years and years and years of cycles of numbing and squashing and things like that. It's not easy. It's not easy, as I'm sure you're well aware, but it's not impossible. And honestly, you just have to keep going. You really have to trust in yourself that you can do these things. It is totally possible to break free from these patterns. And we all have something that we're addicted to, really, whether it's over drinking and alcohol, whether it's sugar, whether it's shopping, whether it's wanting attention all the time, whether it's chasing certain types of relationships, just numbing out on social media, Netflix, whatever the thing is. And I have really tried so hard to build a relationship with the discomfort and sitting with myself, feeling the things that I really don't want to be feeling, like not having the sugar, not having the wine, and feeling that, and really, really getting in there, which is the work I do with people, because this is what so many of us don't want to do. We will run a mile rather than have to feel things. But this is where the work is. This is where the healing work is. And with the right support, the right way, the right strategies, the right process, the right tools, we can all do this. And at the end of this training, I'm going to share a way, if you want to work with me in a deeper way, I'm going to share details of how you can do that. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, as I do. But this sugar eating, numbing, squashing sugar thing carried on all the way through, really, up until about 7 years ago. So I'd been alcohol free for a year, and I decided, right, I'm going to work on my sugar thing. Now I feel like I've got the alcohol thing sorted. Now the alcohol thing, let's go back to that. That didn't start for me until, so I was leaving a controlling situation with work around 15 years ago, which is when I met my boyfriend, who is my now husband. And I left that, and we were dating, and you know, started seeing him, moved in with him eventually, and that's when I found alcohol, and it was freedom to me. It signified freedom, new start, new, like, wow, I feel like the world is expansive all of a sudden. And I started drinking in the pubs, and I started bringing wine home. It wasn't anything that I was worried about. I just thought, oh, this is fun. It felt like it was giving me confidence I never thought I'd had. It was helping with anxiety, all of these things. But then what happened was I started over drinking, and I started bringing wine home most evenings, you know, popping into the shop on the way back from work, grabbing some wine, grabbing some snacks, all of my favourite unhealthy things, chocolate cake, crisps, nibbly things. And then I'd sit there in the evenings and drink and eat loads of junk, and I wasn't really looking after myself at all. Certainly no self-care in place, and that went on, really. And then what happened was my relationship with alcohol started to change, because my gorgeous boyfriend, after about a year of being together, he started to get very, very poorly. So he'd had a history of, he'd had 3 strokes, but we thought he was all pretty much okay. He was on medication. He was seemingly all back to normal. But what happened was his heart had been affected, and this led to him starting to feel really poorly, really, really poorly. And he was having a lot of tests. He was in and out of hospital. And I started to drink more. So I was drinking around a bottle of wine most evenings, and more at weekends, definitely more, and eating more sugar, and I was a bag of nerves. I was high anxiety. I'd also had a history of panic attacks as well, and fainting was a regular occurrence because I just could not seem to self-regulate at all. So that's another reason why I was using alcohol and sugar. And so Rich, my husband, well, boyfriend back then, he ended up being put on the heart transplant waiting list. And it's so sad. I had to say goodbye to him for, well, we were apart from a good year while he was waiting, other ends of the country, and I carried on with work. I had a cleaning business back then, and that was my life. I was just cleaning, I was working, I was going home, buying wine on the way home, drinking, and just feeling sorry for myself. And sometimes, you know, it was a bit of a party for one, but it was pretty much generally numbing and squashing the worry. So fast forward, 2015, he had a heart transplant, which is just miracle of miracles, and we are so incredibly grateful. His life was saved, which was just amazing. And as you can imagine, we had so many roller coaster emotions and so much to deal with and so much worry. But anyway, he was okay. He made a great recovery, and we finally got to get married. So we got married, and then a couple of weeks later, Rich said to me, because we'd been to the pub and I'd had a little too much to drink. I was merry and I thought I was being very funny, but he said I was being embarrassing. And he said to me, Kath, you really need to do something about your drinking. So he just knew that I was drinking too much, and it just was becoming a problem. And we had a bit of an argument about it, but I knew that he was right. I knew because I'd already had this conversation with myself and this call from within. And maybe you have heard the call as well, and you're like one eye open and it's like, oh, do we really have to look at this? But I really had to, because we'd got a new chance of life together. You know, we've got a lovely house in the country. We're still living here. We had a dog. Everything was great. And I thought, I don't want to ruin my health. I don't want to ruin our relationship through just being really just irresponsible with my drinking. I tried to moderate. I tried so hard, and it was bloody hard work. It was really tough. And so I finally made that decision. It's like, right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this. And boy, I had to dig really deep, and I thought, I'm going to do this. I have got to make this work. I don't know how. I have no idea how, but I've got to find a way. And I did. I made that decision, and I did my first year sober. And then at the end of the first year sober, I thought, I'm okay now. I can go back and have a drink. I'll just moderate. It'll be fine. I'll just be really careful. I'll just be really aware. So I made a conscious decision to have some wine. And what really surprised me was the first couple of sips, how strong that pull was to drink more. It's almost like nothing had changed. And in my mind, it was like something turned on again. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And it didn't feel good to me at all. It didn't feel good. I have had clients that have been able to go back and do that. And this is where it is so individual, and it is down to us to really I do feel it's okay. We have to give ourselves permission to do these things if we want to. And I'm not encouraging you to go out and drink at all, but I decided to do that, and I learnt from that. It's not for me. It's not for me. But then I did the same thing after the second year, went and did the same thing. So really it's been pretty messy, but I haven't had any alcohol in the last 4 years, and I really know now, you know, I'm so much happier without alcohol, and I can't tell you how much life has opened up in so many ways, and it's such an incredible journey of really coming home and becoming whole and getting to know your soul, getting to know who you really are at soul level. And so last year, I had this deep, sort of a deep calling from within to go. I can't really explain it, but it was like a deeper, there's more. It's like the roots, the depths, the darkest parts of me were calling. And I thought, what is that? And I stumbled across soul energetics, which somehow appeared in my world from my amazing mentor Kelly Vikings, and it was all about human design, numerology, Atlantean healing, getting to know yourself at this core soul level and learning about like who you are, what you are here for. And I thought, this sounds absolutely fascinating. My body, I was reading the sales page and my body was literally like, yes, Kath, do it. And so I did. I signed up to work with Kelly to do this amazing thing. And I qualified as a soul energetics practitioner last summer. But I spent the whole of this year really working with this at this deeper level. And it's helped me so much on my journey, because I'm now on this sugar freedom journey, and I've come to a place where I've really felt this this release of like, I don't give sugar the power that I used to. And it's so interesting because when I made the decision to quit alcohol, the seeds of the wellness tree was born. Now the wellness tree is my coaching methodology, and what I've done is I've added soul energetics to the wellness tree with all of my grey area drinking coach training as well. And now we have this incredible powerhouse of a tree that I am so passionate about. And this is where I help, because when I quit drinking, I felt really lost, and I felt like I was two different people, drinking me still and not drinking me, and I could not kind of bridge that gap between the two. So I had one foot in new me, current me, one foot in future me, and I couldn't get both feet in. Now, this is where the wellness tree slots in beautifully, because this is about, we cannot create positive change if we are not feeling safe and secure in ourselves. So we need to create firm foundations, like a tree rooting into the earth, plunging our roots in so that we are grounded, we are secure, we are steady, we are strong. When we know we are supported and our nervous system is held, we can then, from that steady place, we can create, we can birth the new versions of us into the world. Because otherwise, we are trying to create change. We're trying to create, let's say, for example, alcohol-free days, but we don't know how to, navigate through cravings, or how to settle ourselves after a stressful day at work, or when we just feel so fizzy and ungrounded and we're looking for something to settle, which is why we drink, why we eat loads of sugar, because our bodies, our nervous systems are literally wanting us to ground. And the way that we have been teaching them to ground is with wine or with alcohol, wine, whatever it is, or sugar, and that's what we've taught the body to do. So every time we get a craving or something else, it's just our bodies alerting us like, hello, it's that time, we need to settle ourselves. And so it's our job, our responsibility as the new version of us to say, we don't do it that way anymore, this is how we do it now. Now it takes around 90 days for the rewiring process to even start. And so it's slow, steady growth. And it's like we're digging up the seed to see if it's taken root. Like, is it growing yet? Is it growing yet? We have to trust that no, we're not gonna dig up the seed. We can't see what's happening, and that's okay. We just trust the process, because one day we turn around and we say, I just haven't thought about alcohol. Just realised I haven't thought about that. And I remember when I first quit drinking, I was literally every day thinking, I'm not drinking alcohol, I'm not drinking alcohol. Hope I don't drink alcohol. And I had this sort of hanging on and hoping thing, which is where we really need our tools and our resources to really cement these roots in to carry us through. And so really my journey has been pretty imperfect, but I'm feeling very much in the new identity. So let's just talk about grey area drinking. What is grey area drinking? So I did my training, my grey area drinking training with Jolene Park, who is the world's leading expert on grey area drinking, and she did an amazing TED talk on this, which you can Google. And to put it simply, you have drinking alcohol on a spectrum, and one end of the spectrum is people who can have a glass of wine, for example, now and again. It's not a thing for them, they can take it or leave it. Now, I used to be that person a long time ago. Just like alcohol, I didn't really like it, didn't like the taste, and one glass of wine used to go straight to my head until I practiced drinking and trained my body to be able to drink more. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the people who literally can't stop drinking, and it would be really dangerous for them to suddenly stop drinking, and they would need to be medically detoxed. Now, I don't work with people at the end of that spectrum. We have the whole space in the middle, which is known as grey area drinking, and that can be a pretty broad array of drinking patterns as well. And so grey area drinkers, typically for them, they can stop drinking, but it's staying stopped that's the problem. And this is exactly how the wellness tree supports us. So my next question is, well, what is alcohol or sugar freedom? So I have been on a journey with stopping alcohol completely, moderating alcohol, having it now and again, and my conclusion is I love being alcohol free and I don't intend to go back to drinking. Now, sugar freedom for me is I do still have sugar. I have had periods, I've done like 6 months pretty much no sugar at all, which felt amazing, which completely like reset me, and then I was able to reintroduce sugar, but only now and again. I literally only have sugar like very rarely now, and if I do, it's a real conscious choice. It's like, I'm going to have this piece of cake, I'm going to give myself full permission, and I'm going to really enjoy it, but it has to be the right piece of cake. And that's been my work and continues to be, because I can really feel sometimes where, you know, I can make a choice that doesn't feel so good and it can be a slippery slope. And I really believe this is our life's work. It's never like, oh, I'm there now, it's all done. And I used to think that. I used to think, oh, that's fine, I'm fixed, I'm cured. But no, it's having that awareness really all the time. Now, alcohol freedom can look different for all of us. For some people, it can be like, I'm just going to have one glass of wine now and again, if I can. Some people can. For some people, it's like, no, I don't want alcohol in my life anymore. It is so personal. And every soul is unique. Every nervous system is unique. I'd always encourage people to definitely experience a decent amount of time without alcohol. And I get so excited when people say, like, I just want to leave alcohol. I'm ready to create that alcohol-free life. I want to experience 100% present living as much as possible anyway. And it has such an incredible ripple effect into all of our different life areas, into our business. But yes, alcohol, sugar freedom, using the wellness tree method, it's personal. And whether you're taking a break, whether it's a firm stop, just definitely like be okay with just giving yourself permission to find what works and what doesn't. And for me, it took ages, and that's definitely okay. We need to be able to take the time it takes. So I'm going to talk about the two identities. So we have the old identity, which is the current version of you, the one you're trying to leave, possibly. Old you with the old cycles and habits that just don't serve anymore. And this is what you don't want. This is what you're moving away from. And then we have the new identity, the new you, the version of you that you really want to become. Perhaps you're showing up as her or him today and you're like, I really love this. I really love this feeling and I want to continue. And perhaps you're in that stop-start cycle and you really want consistency. You really want to make it stick. So definitely hang around till the end of this training because I'm going to show you how you can continue the journey with me. This is the version of you that you want to embody, that you want to really cement. You're done with your excuses. You're done with these patterns. You're done with your stories. You're like, I'm so tired of myself because this was me and I know exactly how that feels. And this is what you're working towards. So you want to be in your full potential. You want to be dancing at the edges of your comfort zone, stretching into possibility and your potential and pushing yourself. Baby steps. And I'm such a fan of like stretching and seeing what's possible. It's being uncomfortable, feeling that discomfort of like, oh my God, this just feels, it's almost like we're feeling really naked and really vulnerable and exposed. And that's where the medicine lies, in feeling the fear, doing it anyway. It's being unstoppable. It's feeling empowered and inspired and taking that action, continual forward action. It's practicing and building on consistency with daily habits and routines that just feed you where you're going. It's soul food. And it's building that resilience muscle. It's keeping you balanced and steady and calm. And even when it feels like life's throwing all the challenges at you, whether it's divorce or somebody's died or you're looking after a loved one, like I was, it's being devoted to your potential, to your soul, to you, even when life's rattling all around and the storm is blowing. It's like being that tree with the deep roots. Now, it's also knowing when to rest, when to balance the masculine and the feminine energies. Now, we all have both. The masculine is the container. It's the tree. It's the tree with the deep roots. It's our systems. It's our plans and processes and strategies and the goals. It's the driving force. It's ticking things off, getting things done, you know, doing what we said we're going to do. And the feminine is the being, it's the receiving, it's the dancing with life, it's the feeling of the discomfort and trusting that we can hold ourselves through it. And not only that, that we are supported. I believe we are divinely supported, and I am such a believer in community, and having those connections as well. Just having your tribe, your people around you, so important. So we have the old identity, the version of us that we're letting go of with love. Thank you for the lessons. And now we want to embody the new identity, the new version of us. But we're having this trouble because we can't get both feet in. Or if we can, we can't seem to make it stick. So there's something I call the gap, which is the space between these two identities. Now this is where most people get stuck in the grey area drinking world when they're trying desperately to navigate and build these consistent, I call it on-track days. So whether it's alcohol freedom, sugar freedom, both, whatever you're doing, on track is your personal plan, what you want to create. And what happens is we get this identity paralysis which sets in, and it's like, well, who am I? Am I drinking? Am I moderating? Am I not drinking at all? Is this forever? Am I buying wine? Am I not buying wine? And then we get, oh, this just feels such hard work. We get so emotionally exhausted. The thinking process, maybe you've experienced this, but I used to get so tired from thinking about drinking all the time, thinking about not drinking. And when I finally decided I'm done, I want alcohol out of my life and the whole sugar freedom thing as well, I felt so much lighter afterwards. I felt I don't have to think about this anymore. It's, here you go, universe, you deal with it. I'm done. It's so freeing. It's literally a decision away. When we've reached that point where it just feels so heavy and we're like, no more. I am not carrying this heavy weight around with me for the rest of my life, and it's toxic and it's taking and it's soul destroying. I just think, you know, life is precious and life is for living. And if we just give ourselves a chance to experience how incredible we can feel and how amazing it is to experience these days where we're just giving ourselves the soul freedom that we want, like, wow. So what we are aiming to do is to close this gap, and it feels like maybe we're a ship lost at sea. We're like bobbing about, we can't find our anchor, we can't feel safe. Then we can close this gap. So important things to know about the gap is it's where your potential lies. It's where you get to really be in control of your mind, to shift the perspective, to think differently. So think about an athlete that has to be top of their game. They have to know how to look after their mind. They have to know how to, you know, feed their body with the nutrition it needs. They need to be at their peak performance. So they're not going to be sat there drinking every night and eating a ton of junk food. They're going to be priming themselves for their masterpiece, for their creation. So being okay with being uncomfortable for a while, and then This is all about nourishing all parts of ourselves. So it's a dying off period here as well. It's where we're letting go of that old identity, which can feel like a death. So we need to be okay with allowing ourselves to grieve. It's a grieving period. It's letting go. We're feeling out of our comfort zone. It's wine witch territory. We get the wine witch siren call, like, go on, you've had a hard day. You deserve a glass of wine. You deserve a load of sugar. Just go on. You can start Monday. It'll be okay. I had this so many times, and I'd press the F it button. I'd be fed up and I'd be going in the garage and buying the wine, buying the sugar, thinking, I'll just get it out of my system. I'll just have this one last party for one and I'll start Monday. Monday I'll sort my whole life out and get back on track. Only this became a regular. Mondays used to be always day one again. And then I just got sick and tired and I ended up breaking that cycle. So know that the rewiring process of our whole self takes place in this gap. Now, we really need to have some kind of plan in place. Some kind of support, some kind of thing that's going to help. And this is exactly where the wellness tree fits in. Now, I'm just going to talk about the C archetypes because this will help you to sort of discover like where you are. And the C archetypes encourage us to almost have this bird's eye view and just zoom out on ourselves and be the watcher. So the first one we have is the ostrich. Now the ostrich, she has her head buried firmly in the sand. She doesn't even want to acknowledge the problems that she's having with drinking or sugaring or whatever the thing is. She's not prepared, she or he is not prepared to take responsibility for their lives. She's really not available for positive change. So what can you do, eh? And then we have the toe dipper. The toe dipper is curious about alcohol freedom or sugar freedom. And she's fed up of feeling stuck and she is wanting to create positive change. But she's feeling scared and she prefers to stay in her comfort zone and be a sure hugger where she knows the familiar. Then we have the paddler, and the paddler is more into trying than the toe dipper. But she only likes to get her feet wet. So she's not ready to be all in. And again, she's a shore hugger. She prefers the safety of dry land, the familiar, even though she desperately wants to change. And then we have the swimmer. The swimmer is all in. So these ones I've talked about, we've got the ostrich, the toe dipper and the paddler. They're all trying to leave Pain Island where it feels horrible and grey and it's a struggle, and they can see Pleasure Island twinkling in the distance, which is where their new identity is, where their new dream life is, and they desperately want to get there, but they're not ready yet. So they stay on Pain Island where it's familiar and where it's safe, even though it's not really where they want to be. They're just putting up with it. But the swimmer, she's got her eyes on Pleasure Island. She says, I'm in. Get me to Pleasure Island. She's not staying on Pain Island anymore. She's done with staying stuck in the day one cycle, and she's heading off for that journey of personal growth, building resilience. She's open for the messy imperfection and the failure and the feedback, and she's like, just bring it on, just bring it on. However, she hasn't planned for the journey ahead. She doesn't have any resources, any tools to support her, and the choppy waters just, she finds it really hard to navigate this. and she gets tired because she doesn't know how to look after her mindset, and she ends up in that whirlpool of day ones. And usually she gets washed back up to shore again on Pain Island, and then she has to start all over again. I can so identify with being the swimmer. And then we have the diver, otherwise known as the mermaid archetype. She is my favourite archetype. Now she's doing it. She knows exactly how to navigate the journey to Pleasure Island. She's worked her way from ostrich through all of those archetypes. She knows the pain, she's had the lessons, she's done with all of her. She's like, right, that's it, I am totally in. And she's willing to dive deep into her feelings and her emotions, and she actually does the work. She takes action, and she transforms her limiting beliefs. She breaks through. She also knows when to rest, when to recharge. She'll rest on the rocks and she'll sun herself. She'll take all the time that she needs. She soaks up the sun. She's like being, balancing her masculine and her feminine energies. And she knows how to think, how to feel, how to really be devoted to her soul. Now, we all have mermaid within us. We all have this. This is our soul. This is our potential, our intuition, our guide, our inner compass. And she's waiting for you to be ready. And really, it's up to us to decide. It's up to us when we're going to move. And what is there to wait for? It's like, why wait? Let's go. Let's do this. Let's do this. I want to give you a couple of really powerful journaling prompts. If you're wanting to get back on track, if you're wanting to do a little reset for your soul, there's two really powerful things I suggest you do. In fact, three things, because this is always what I have done to get me back on track, and this is part of the wellness tree. It's really cementing route 1 in. And this is the first thing to do in your journal, is to do a little inventory on what's happened. Why did you wobble off track? And no blame, no shame, no judgment, just curiosity. What happened? Can you pinpoint the thing? And how can you make sure you can kind of mend that hole so it doesn't happen again? And then really importantly, I want you to think about why it's important for you to make these changes. Why do you want this? Why do you want alcohol freedom? Or why do you want sugar freedom? Why is it important to you? And don't just write one sentence. I want you to chase the why. Be like a kid. Why is that important? Why? Why that? What would that mean? What does that mean? Why? Why? And then you get to like the golden core belief, the thing that means the most to you, whether it really is your health, your loved ones. It's going to be real close to your heart stuff. What is the real why? And that is your driver, along with the second question, which is who do I want to be? So we're looking at your vision. It's like, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? So this gives you some clarity in being able to get back on track and create your new plan. Now, if you want deeper support with this, I'm doing a case study program. It's actually Soul Wealth Academy, which we're starting in January. I'm looking for 3 to 5 women, so a lovely small group of women who want to either start or deepen into or get back on track with their alcohol or sugar freedom journey, however that looks for them. And if you want the details, I invite you to message me, DM me the word details. That's all you have to do, or pop details in the comment, and I'll ask you a couple of questions and then send you the details. So I'm so excited. I literally can't wait to get going with that. Hope you've enjoyed this, hope it's helped, and if you have any questions at all, please feel free to send me a private message. Lots of love, keep going, keep shining, keep being amazing. You've totally got this. Bye.